Like Venerable Semkei, I also just visited the 18th annual Gathering of Western Monastics. That's not the exact title, but close enough. At the Deer Park Monastery in Escondido, California. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but it weaves into a topic that I also then went to Seattle after the conference and talked about Shantideva's reflections on joyous effort. So our conference theme was how to develop and sustain Bodhi resolve with joy in challenging times. So this idea of joy, effort, movement, laziness, which is the opposite of that joyous effort, has all been up the last week or so. So there's a lot of rich material in that worth exploring. So what I'd like to do over the next BBCs that I do for the next little while is really dive into joyous effort, or enthusiastic perseverance is one of the translations, or zeal, which I don't like so much, but it is a translation too, of this quality of mind. It's one of the 6 far-reaching practices of a bodhisattva and is essential to our practice. So just starting with the conference, on the first day we spent some time looking at this topic, how to develop and sustain Bodhi resolve or bodhicitta with joy in challenging times, and we spent the first day talking about the challenging times. So the first session really looked a lot at the internal view, the tendency of the mind to turn towards depression or discouragement, and how easy it is for the mind to go. And people talked a bit about how they work with that. So, you know, joyous effort is quite an antidote. Cultivating that is quite an antidote for the mind that tends towards discouragement or depression. In the afternoon, we looked at more of the external signs of challenging times, which are very real and I think affect us quite a lot. Bhikkhu Bodhi made this presentation and talked about the neoliberal economic policies that are feeding the continued disparity between wealth and poverty in the world. In the United States, in 2010, the bottom 80% of people have 5% of the financial wealth. Bottom meaning on the economic scale, right? You weigh them out. Bottom 80% have 5% of the financial wealth. The top 1% have 42% of the wealth. And the top 10% have 85% of the wealth. I mean, this divide has gotten really huge, and the possibilities for continued great suffering from that is big. There's also the very real issue of climate change. And that in August, the Arctic ice cap shrank at a record pace, faster than it has ever since they've been recording ice and so forth. And so what that means in terms of survival of various species, what that means in terms of, you know, weather patterns all over the world. Right now, the storm is just pounding away on the northeast coast of the United States, the kinds of storms that did not happen year after year after year are happening now. So how do we maintain our Bodhi resolve? I mean, not just like kind of keep a happy mind on a day-to-day worldly way, but how do we really cultivate our Dharma practice and our joyful motivation and kind of confidence in our capacity to develop our Bodhi minds in order to be of benefit to beings? How do we do that in the face of that? So that's where our cultivation of joyous effort comes in. Shantideva says really very clearly in the very first verse of his chapter on joyous effort, when he's talking about practice, so joyous effort follows our cultivation of patience, or what's Venerable's word? Fortitude. Thus, one who has patience, so we assume that we've worked on that a little bit, one who has fortitude or patience should cultivate zeal, or should cultivate joyous effort, because awakening is established with joyous effort. That's how we're going to become Buddhists. And there is no merit without joyous effort. So whatever tasks we're doing, if our mind isn't applied with joyous effort, is it meritorious? And just as there is no movement without wind. I love that metaphor. There is no movement without wind. There is no merit and no awakening without joyous effort. What is it? It is enthusiasm for virtue. Its antithesis is spiritual spiritual sloth, clinging to the reprehensible apathy and self-contempt. So we'll take a look at those over the coming weeks. But what it is enthusiasm for virtue. So in the case of this conference, we looked at, so how are people working to overcome these challenging times and have a happy mind? Bhikkhu Bodhi, who is a very well-respected senior Western monastic, senior in terms of his many long years of monastic life, scholar who's translated much of the Pali sutras and very well respected in the world. Bhikkhu Bodhi says take action. He has, just in the last few years, Bhikkhu Bodhi was born in 1944, so he's 70, I think, about, something like that. Yeah, close to. In the last few years has founded Buddhist Global Relief, an organization that's addressing hunger in places around the world. He's passionate about it. He walks for it. He organizes for it. He speaks eloquently about it. And whatever he's doing internally, he's also doing this external action of, really making effort to bring some relief to suffering. And that's part of his Bodhi resolve. And he is joyous. You can see that clearly as he talks and shares about his efforts there. We also heard from Venerable Karma Lekshe Somo, who is another senior. She's been ordained since 1972, I think. Tremendous challenges that she faced as one of the very first Western women in the Tibetan Buddhist community, trying to get an education and a Dharma education, and meeting with some cultural biases against women in that way. Among her zillions, her accomplishments are this long, but she's the founder of the Sakyadhita organization, which has been supporting women to be able to train, practice, share in the Dharma for many years now. Her thought is, joy or not, just keep going. So whether we're feeling happy about it or not, once our mind is set and we've gotten very clear in our wisdom mind where our priorities are and what's important, then we do it pretty straightforwardly and simple. And even at Plum Village, we had quite a lot of nice exchange with the community there. One of the things they talked about is their definition of a teacher. And a person becomes a teacher in the Plum Village, Deer Park network of monasteries when you can keep your own mind happy intentionally. You know how to do it, and you can help somebody else do it too. So this happiness of mind, this joyous effort, just pervades everything that we do in so many ways. So to spend some time really, really thinking about what is it, how do we cultivate it ourselves, is just what I want to talk about. So these are just some examples. But the thing I think really to keep in mind is this definition of taking delight in creating virtue. The idea of delight, how does that feel in our minds? How do we know when we have it? And what does it take to create virtue? What does it take to turn everything that we're doing into a virtuous action that we can take delight in? So all worth contemplating, and we'll explore it some more.